Now, Blizzard have got a lot right when it comes to Mr. Pandaria Classic, but there's also a couple of things that I don't want to say they've got wrong, but they could definitely be improved. Now, I'm hearing about people burning out of Mr. Pandaria already, and we're only a few weeks into the game, or people going and playing old school RuneScape, or going and playing Turtle WoW, or all of these other options of games. And I honestly do think that boils down to two things in particular that Blizzard could literally change today. I want to put it out there that I'm having a great time in the game, so even though I'm about to complain about a couple of things, don't think that that's me saying, oh my god, the game's rubbish, everyone should quit. Like, no, far from it. I hate to see people leaving the game this early because, quite honestly, the first phase of content in Mr. Pandaria, outside of the initial rush where we're getting geared up ready for that very first raid, it's the worst phase. This is genuinely the worst phase of the game. Throne of Thunder's absolutely amazing, so is Isle of Thunder and all the content it brings, Siege of Orgrimmar, and then obviously Timeless Isle, which is also a lot of fun. So there's so much good stuff to come that we've barely scratched the surface. But it kind of is in Blizzard's hand to try and stop this burnout, because the way we want to consume content and the way that we can consume content right at this moment in time are two very different things. Before we go any further, if you want to see me stream, I stream over on kick.com/Scottejaye. I'm streaming pretty much every day for many hours, too many hours, doing everything from PvP in arenas, battlegrounds, obviously the raids on Heroic, both 10 and 25 man, farming, like you name it, I'm doing everything, and obviously having a few whiskeys and talking rubbish while doing it, so come and say hello. So firstly, the elephant in the room, the most obvious thing that is causing burnout and people are just not having a good time with, including myself, is the XP. How long it takes to get to level 90 from level 85, it might not be that long in the grand scheme of things when you think about vanilla leveling or even TBC leveling, but the rate at which we get content, which all you've got to do is have a look at the scheduled release for Heart of Fear, Terrace, the addition of the Heart of Fear and Terrace loot going into Celestial Dungeons, then no doubt Landfall, which is going to be patch 5.1 or phase 2 for us, that probably isn't going to be that far behind all of this. The content gets fired at us pretty quick. We also consume the raid content a lot faster than we would have back in original Mr. Pandaria, so where it would have took us 4, 5, maybe 6 resets before we started seeing a lot of guilds being able to down the final boss in all of these raids on Heroic, so let's use Will of the Emperor as an example. Yes, there will be the more casual guilds that take their time, they only get a couple of hours raiding each week, but for the majority of the guilds that take raiding seriously, you're looking at a week 2, maybe week 3 clear, at the very maximum. Any longer than that, and you're probably starting to get frustrated that you've not killed the boss yet, which then basically just forces Blizzard's hand to give us content faster, but then that does mean when you want to start working on alts and stuff like that, it makes it very difficult with the systems that are in place in Mr. Pandaria right now, because Blizzard did make some terrible decisions when it came to the beta, and there are even things that I questioned them on. So the XP requirement. Now, I don't want to simply just say the obvious, which is it should be in a post 5.3 state, just flat out removing over 30% of the XP required for each level. That would probably be enough. But if they don't want to go down that route yet and they want to save that and keep it in their back pocket ready for a later date, then they should add some clever systems like retail, where for each max level you get a stacking XP buff on future characters that you level, or even just giving us a permanent joyous journeys. Like the initial leveling hype and getting that first raid done and the race to world first in Mogasham Vaults and all of that, that's over. So now it just doesn't matter. So if they don't want to go down to 5.3 XP values yet, it is a really good time to slap Joyous Journeys on, because with the addition of Celestial Dungeons, we all want to be in those Celestial Dungeons, because one thing Blizzard has done is make level 90 very alt-friendly. So when you are level 90, you can do Celestial Dungeons to get the old Raid Finder gear. You've got the gear dropping from the end bosses as well, so it is a good experience. But if nobody can be bothered to actually get alts to level 90, then most people are just going in to get that 1, maybe 2 items absolute maximum that have dodged you in your actual raid resets the last couple of weeks. So when we look at the fact that they're making the game alt-friendly when you're level 90, but it's an absolute slog and it's causing people to burn out and quit the game because getting to level 90 is an absolute chore, yet there's not enough content at level 90 for people that take raiding seriously to actually just be able to play one character. So having multiple characters is almost a requirement, because if you're going in and you're clearing Will of the Emperor Heroic and obviously all the bosses before it, you're only doing 6 bosses a week at the moment, and it's going to stay like that obviously until Heart of Fear, but 6 bosses a week for most raid teams that are quite organised is just not enough to warrant only being able to do it on one character. So at the moment, you're wanting to raid on 2 or 3 characters. You've got Celestial Dungeons, so you're wanting to go into those Celestial Dungeons on freshly dinged characters that can, like, you get that instant hit of dopamine, don't you, when you're getting loads of gear really, really fast. So instantly hitting level 90, going into Celestials and getting a 476 weapon straight away, a trinket straight away, coming out with loads of the currency, because we are getting a lot of the currency, even though it's got that cap so you can't stock up on fragments before Heart of Fear and then just kit yourself out in Heart of Fear gear. You can get to that 45 cap pretty quickly. So it's a really good time to be doing Celestial Dungeons on characters that need the gear, but the majority of people that are just raiding on, let's say, 2 characters, you've done your reputation, so you've got your Valor gear, you've probably been Conquest capping every week as well, because, let's face it, actually going and Conquest capping is better than going and doing Celestials, because Celestials are 476, Conquest gear is 483, just superior in every way. So all of that really boils down to we need the leveling faster. It's as simple as that. Just bang post 5.3 values on. Do weekends where it's Joyous Journeys as well to encourage people to level characters to make the most out of these Celestial Dungeons. So in my opinion, that's the first thing that needs to be addressed, and really quickly. There is one thing they could do as well around this, which I would like to see. Again, if they want to keep the 5.3 XP values as a bit of a wild card that they can throw in much later when maybe numbers start to dip or something like that, actually just quadrupling the end of dungeon bonus that you get from doing random dungeon finder. Because yes, people are doing monkey runs and things like that, but you're not going to get that end bonus if you're doing monkey runs as a sort of pre-made 5-man. If they was to massively increase the bonus that you get at the end from 85 to 90 from random dungeon finder, that also could work. Because I'd happily spam random dungeon finder from 85 to 90 if it was worth it and you was getting a substantial amount of XP from each dungeon. So honestly, Blizzard, anything will help getting from 85 to 90 and allowing people to actually enjoy the game rather than it feeling like a chore. Because while we're talking about chores and burnout really is the real key point here. There's a lot of repetitive stuff to do in MoP if you want ults, and if you want the best possible gear on those ults. So the next thing that needs to be changed, and never should have been changed on the beta, is the reputations. Now, I said straight away, as soon as they added the rep requirements for Valor gear, I said it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Didn't work back in the day. They never done it again in future expansions. They never done it before in previous expansions. It was dumb. And again, for a group of developers that did shout about how alt-friendly they've made Mist of Pandaria in multiple dev interviews, this is the single worst system in World of Warcraft, in any version of World of Warcraft ever, honestly. Having to grind out Valor, which is a chore, added on top of that, you need to then go and do reputations to get to Honoured, which is like a week's worth of dailies with most of the reputations to then be able to spend that Valor, is ridiculous. This monk here behind me is the monk that I boosted in Town Long Steps. So this monk has literally 0 reputations. So for me to be able to spend Valor to get upgrades, which I'm getting the Valor from doing the new Celestial Dungeons, I'll have to go out and do reps again on a character I don't really want to do reputations on. This is just an ult. I boosted this character in Town Long Steps just as another character to raid on. Not another character to have to go and get honoured with loads of reputations to be able to get gear before I go into the raid. So while account-wide reputations absolutely make sense, I think if Blizzard could make it happen, we don't need account-wide reputations. Instead, we just need a flag on all future characters on our account that enables them to be able to buy gear from the vendor regardless of reputation, as long as you have the reputation to be able to buy them on your account. So if I'm honoured on my main monk, all future characters and all other characters on the account can spend their Valor on gear, which just kind of makes sense. So sure, make people need to do the reputation once on something, but then you shouldn't need to do it on multiple characters. If we're talking about why people are getting burnt out, it's because they feel the need, if they're raiding on 2 or 3 characters a week, they feel the need to get the best possible gear so they're not letting their raid team down, because you don't want to be that guy that's like, nope, well, me, actually. You don't want to be me who's saying, I'm not doing reputations. I'm going in with less gear into the raid than I could, which means I'm putting extra stress on the rest of the raid, just because I don't want to do dailies, which I don't, and I'm sure there's many people like me, that you done the reputations the first week on your main, so you could obviously get the best gear possible for your first raid, and now you're done with that. You don't want to do that anymore, because it's a chore. It's a chore on top of a chore. Part of the chore is going and getting Valor. The second part of the chore is then being able to do dailies every day on multiple characters so you can spend it. The reason I think just going down the route of once you've got the reputation on one character, it counts on all would be easier than actual full account-wide reputations is because they'd have to somehow implement that from retail. Like the warband system, 100%. I'd love to see that in MoP Classic, don't get me wrong. But that's probably a lot of development work when there must be a way for them just to sort of flag your account if you're exalted or you're honored with a certain reputation so you can then use the vendors. I'm no game developer, obviously, but I just can't see that that would be too much of an issue. Even saying all that though, the ultimate fix to it, which is how it should have been from the very beginning, is just removing the reputation requirement to spend your valor. It is really, really stupid. I feel the need to throw in once again that this is not me hating on the game. I love the game, but these two key things need to be addressed just to keep people actually playing the game. And if they want it to be alt-friendly, like they've said many, many times before, and you see a rep paladin in your guild absolutely blasting, and you're like, oh, do you know what, Dave? I'm going to do a rep paladin. And then you log on and it takes you, I don't know, the best part of a full week to get to level 90. Then you've got to start doing dailies for a week before you can spend Valor. Yes, you can go into Celestials and stuff, but like I said before, you're going to go in, you're going to get subpar gear. When you've already done it all once on one character, you should have access to the good gear. And then all you've got to do is just grind out Valor and Celestials to be able to buy it. Instead, much like me, I'm very put off by leveling another character. I've had absolutely zero reason to go into Celestials whatsoever because I would rather go in Conquest Cap and get 483 gear over 476 gear, but I would love to have a fresh level 90 that I can go into Celestials and can get some upgrades with and really just have a good time doing it as well. But I don't want to have a good time doing Celestials when I've just had a terrible time just feeling like a drag getting to level 90 and then not even being able to spend the currency that I'm earning when I'm doing Heroics and Celestials. Now, I do want to throw in one potential idea around reputations, and if they don't want to do the whole account-wide thing, they don't want to make it so if you've got the rep on one character, you just have access to the gear on all your other characters. Let's say they don't want to do any of that and they really dig their heels in and they want to keep the reputation requirements for Valor gear, but they want a different solution. Well, Celestial Dungeons could be the solution. Again, I don't like just complaining about stuff in the game without at least throwing some ideas out there, because that's not really helping change, is it? Just complaining about things being rubbish, that does nothing. Let's identify what's bad about the system and what could be better about the system, and then hopefully Blizzard can find something in between that we all enjoy. So on the basis, Celestials are actually quite fun, doing massive damage by getting the buffs, being able to see epics at the end, that if you're an enchanter, you can DE for Shard Crystals to sell on the auction house, even if you don't need gear. We've got those bags that you can get where there's a chance at a mount and you can get your lesser charms, so you don't need to go out and do dailies to get lesser charms anymore. You can just buy the bags of lucky chance or whatever they're called for 10 fragments. Like, that's all really good stuff. So if they want to lean in on alts can do Celestials to be able to get stuff that you don't need to go out and do dailies and in the open world for, why not add tokens to the Celestial vendor as well for each reputation? So let's say for 10 fragments, you can get 250 reputation. It wouldn't be reputation with them all. They would all be individual tokens. So you could get 250 Augur Celestials for 10 fragments, or you could get 250 Golden Lotus. So you can grind out Celestials for absolutely everything on your ults. You don't need to do dailies. You don't need to worry about reputation. You can just spam Celestials, get fragments, spend the fragments on reputation, and then the valor that you're getting from the Celestials, you can then go and buy gear with, using the vendors that you've just chose to gain reputation with. In my opinion, that would be win-win. And that's pretty much where I want to leave the video, because I know it's probably seemed like a 10-15 minute pure rant about how bad XP and reputations are, but that was what it was intended to be. They are the two things that are holding me back personally from having fun. And I know that sounds bad. I'm having fun on my monks, my 4 monks. I mean, I've already leveled 4 times. I don't want to do it again. Not with how it is at the moment. That is the main thing. I want more characters to play and gear up and do pug raids on or GDKPs on or whatever. But when it's such a painful experience actually getting to 90 and getting geared and doing reps, it's kind of stopping me. So I'm sure it's probably stopping other people as well. So Blizzard, please watch this. And if you don't do exactly what I'm thinking, at least maybe take some inspiration from it and do something at least. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you come follow me over on Kick, streaming pretty much every day. Links in the description below. Pick up Rested XP if you haven't already and you want to go out and quest like an absolute mentalist. And I'll see you on the next one.